This is episode number 28, You versus You podcast, all about self-development and working on those goals. All right, a lot has happened since episode 27. And in that time, I think the biggest thing was realizing that I was starting to get out of shape again. And it's nothing extreme, but it was enough backsliding to say, I'm going to put my foot down and get back after it. And I always tell every single person who wants to start a new routine or develop a new habit to do the 6-week test. And that is where you put up the parameters, the boundaries, and then you're focused for 6 weeks. And then you can gauge what you're able to do in a more accurate way. And it's not wishful thinking anymore. It's dedicated time of focus and intensity, and then reassessing where you're at. Nothing in life is static, and that was the thing that had hit me the most, because I was lulled into a false sense of being average without even realizing it. And then it just took a couple comments and those clothes don't fit as well as they used to. And not anything dramatic, but it was enough where I was like, man, I used to love this shirt. Now it doesn't fit so well. And then a moment of kind of a funny moment was I stuck my foot through a slight hole in my knee, the knee area of the pant, and my foot went through it. So I sabotaged a pair of pants that I loved and said, oh man, it's gonna be hard to get these same pants again. And they were fitting the way I'd like them to fit, but it was enough to say, all right, I lost my favorite pair of jeans. I'm starting to get out of shape. Let's get back after it. I step on the scale and it says 260 pounds. I'm like, dang, all right, that's beyond what I talked about, saying the limit would be 245. And I said, well, how did this happen? Just looked at my fridge, looked at how I was living, and said, oh, it's because I lost focus. I got off that pattern, and now it's just time to go back to it. So doing that assessment, looking back at the peak level of fitness after having lost 100 pounds was 2022. And revisiting that, what was I doing? How was I eating? How was I going to the gym? What was that mindset? What am I doing now? Compare and contrast, it all had to do with the intentionality of why I was going to the gym. And in the past year, the backsliding came mostly from lifting heavy and eating whatever I wanted, and then not doing cardio. In 2022, it was 10 minutes after every single meal, no matter what, and then still doing cardio at the gym. All right, well, I can bridge the gap between that divide real easy. And so I wrote it down, being September 29th, 2024 was the day I started, because that was the day I said, this has got to stop. So on October 1st, 2024, I was officially in the gym to be doing six times a week to hit that goal of 235. Did it look like that flawlessly? Of course not, but I don't want to jump the shark. I'll tell you those results soon. All right, if I could go back in time and do things differently, I would not have eased off the gas pedal. I would have had a couple days, maybe a week of tapering off just to let the body reset, recover, and then I'd go back at it again. So that's what I say to everyone, whether you're starting, whether you're in the middle, or whether you're just floating around the gym, not doing anything, but you're still there. You're still in the gym with the intention of maintaining. I'd say just recalibrate just a little bit and say, why are you there? And are you improving? Are you writing this down? Or is it just more of a feeling it out? I would urge you to do it for 6 weeks and see how you feel, record the results, and then get back after it. Because when you see changes or improvement, that is its own form of self-motivation and momentum. So go for it. Instead of having a lopsided routine with zero cardio and just gravitating to the thing that you like most, for me, it was just lifting weights. That is not really able to be sustained in the long term if you want to have the balance that your body requires, right? So I'm always going to be gravitating to the pushing exercises, but you need to keep that in balance with the pulling exercises and the carrying exercises. So if you're new to lifting weights, push, pull, carry, I will swear by it, but you can do bro splits or circuit training however you want. All right. So this all came down to going back to the basics. What does that look like? For me, 6 weeks of training, revisit it, share what those results are with a friend, post it online if you want to, and then that is there as an anchor for humility, right? If people ask you about it, you can say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing currently. I know I had said I was going to be doing this, but I didn't do it, right? So for me, it's this podcast. I can keep myself accountable by reviewing these episodes and then being like, dang, I can't believe I said I was going to be pushing for 185 pounds to weigh in would look something like this 6-week program focused on the intensity of cardio and just doing that back to back to back to back. And that probably take 2.5, 3 years with not really any easing off the gas. So I still have that as something on the back burner, but it's not the highest priority now. Right now, the highest priority is to get back to 235 pounds and then stay there, adjust to it, and then push harder and harder again. All right. So the first thing I would say is, what's the target you're going for? I know what mine is, 235 pounds. All right, well, where am I now? It takes the humility to see the forest for the trees and to weigh your environment and atmosphere, your headspace. I'm 260 pounds. All right, well, what does that mean from there? It's simple. To hit that goal, it's to drop 25 pounds. If how fast can I do it? It's not a race for a bodybuilding competition or a fitness challenge or a New Year's resolution. This is something that can be done at any pace, but I'm going to test it by marking it for 6 weeks and then seeing what that is. Spoiler alert, I did not finish the program. The program concludes, I should say, on the 9th, which is in 2 days. So I'm almost there. And then that'll be the big reveal, is stepping on the scale, seeing how I feel. The good news already is the recomposition that's happened in the last 6 weeks. I already feel more firm. The cardio has definitely gone up. Just running around with baby girl, I'm like, oh, I can do this all day. And she's the one getting tired. All right. How do I hit that target? All right. Give it the 6-week test. Well, what does that look like? 45 minutes of cardio and 45 minutes of lifting weights. Standard. That's what the gym routine will look like. There are moments to account for, like unforeseen consequences of schedule, baby girl schedule, or an emergency that comes up. But those aren't things that happen every day that couldn't be taken into accountability and as a factor. So the 10-minute after eating a meal is a great backstop if I'm not going to the gym. If you're those people who track their steps, this would be a really good moment to start turning that on for whatever app that you use or whatever device that you have plugged in. Say, okay, I'm going to actually stick really close to that, hitting 10,000 steps, right? If in this moment of doing the 6-week test, I have a restricted diet, and that is being very selective with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not the problem, but it's the thing that goes into excess when I'm not on my P's and Q's. So for me, it's overnight oats and toasted Ezekiel bread as the main staple, and then everything else being using extreme discretion upon consuming. A huge fan of carbs before working out, carbs afterwards, and then instead of doing a normal portion, either doing a half portion or subbing it out with something else like more meat, more veggies. When it comes to the specific carb source, I'm saying jasmine rice and no second helping of it. And that's so hard to do, right? Because it's so delicious. Indian food and Thai food will be the biggest thing to focus on, because that's when I'd have the rice and the bread, the naan. So if I know that for 6 weeks, then I'm not touching other stuff, right? I'd be more conscious of what I am consuming. And this is because I'm reminding myself of the goal every single day. I'm reviewing it in the morning and I'm looking at it before I go to bed. Right? The next thing I would do is deep sleep and take more naps and treat it as something sacred. This is, at least for me, it's seeing if I want to take a nap, I can justify it as wasting time and not doing something productive. But the movement doesn't necessarily mean it is productive. And in this case of pushing yourself harder at the gym and then you're already on a restricted diet, it becomes a moment of great recovery that is also a mood stabilizer. So my lady will tell you immediately when I'm been doing a 6-week program, because I'm usually a little bit more irritable unless I've been taking naps, right? So that is a very Western mentality thing to say is, oh, if you're resting, you're being lazy. If you're taking too many naps, you're not doing something that could be otherwise used to work on things. That is a new phenomenon, because in other cultures around the world, it's a moment of being able to touch the divine and have that communion with your creator. That's what dreams are, right? So I would, and everyone knows I'm a prolific dreamer. So that's seen as a time of prayer and communion, right? So why would that be ever wasted, right? So there you have that. The next thing is the RICE technique, the acronym RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Huge deal in terms of recovery. One of the things that I love doing on the daily is to lay on my bed and throw my feet up against the wall, like way higher than, the whole point is that you're above where your heart is. And when your lower extremity is that high, it's such a deep stretch, and the way the blood moves, it puts everything back in order. So hit it with the rest, ice, compression, elevation. If you're resting, it's just off your body. Ice, if you really need it on the joint or if the muscle's sore. Compression, if there's an ache or pain, especially ankles and knees. I don't do that one as frequently because I don't think that I need it. But those are the ones to just take into consideration for injury prevention and rehabilitation. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. The RICE technique. The new thing right now is I'm back on that coffee, the caffeine life. I was telling my lady the other day, I don't know what I was doing not drinking coffee before, but it's good to reset the receptors for caffeine every now and then. And just a little warning, if you've never done a caffeine detox, the first 2 times are terrible. First one being the worst, second one being a close second, and the third one you get used to it. The third time your body says, oh, I see what's going on. You go without it, and then you're able to take it in like you had it the first time, right? So with that, I'm sensitive to caffeine anyway, so I actually don't need that much coffee. But in the morning, it is such a great way to have the feeling of firing on all cylinders, shooting on all pistons, ready to go, right? closer to the afternoon is not good for me, or I'll be wired. I'll be wired and be hard to go to sleep. There's a great window of being in the morning, having coffee, and then working out. Even if I don't actually set up to go to work out before the afternoon, to have that as a pre-workout is such a boost. So if you don't know the benefits of coffee, all right, this might be a time to experiment. If you've been drinking coffee for years and have never detoxed from it, try it. Try and wean yourself off, or my fan is going cold turkey. Cut it out completely for 6 weeks and then go back into it. See how you feel. You'll be pleasantly surprised at how shocking the results are when you reintroduce caffeine back into your life. The next thing, point 6, is the cheat day. And I'm sure everyone has that in their lexicon just from how people talk, YouTube, life, gym lingo. But this would be having parameters around that. And with me, it's scheduled. So I treat the date night with my lady as the cheat day. And that's where I have in mind not to be over the top and indulgent, but not to be so strict that it sucks the fun out of the day. Oh, I can't touch that. No, for this one day of the week, it is keep the critical comments to myself about whatever the thing is, and then just indulge, but not to be overindulgent. It's to find that balance in it and not see it as a free-for-all. And right now I'm bracing myself because holidays are approaching. We got Thanksgiving, Christmas. We just went over Easter, Halloween. Easter's not for a while. In terms of the dessert and alcohol, I also have an update. 4 months without drinking alcohol, found that the level of irritability has gone through the roof. Right? Who would have thought? Alcohol is a depressant, and a way to reset is noticeable if you don't have that. So this is a moment where, just in terms of the long haul, I have a 2-drink limit, and pretty much treat it like I don't drink. Right? I think those days in my 20s are dead and gone. Everyone is married with kids or not in the same state as me. So it's definitely a different mentality if you are imbibing alcohol by yourself than if it's a party situation. And as a 38-year-old, it's way different than a long time ago, and that's been something that's been hard to just put to rest. But I accept it now and able to move on. All right, the Sunday Sabbath rest. In my mind, I only have a couple priorities on Sunday. It's public worship, going to mass, teaching catechism for the teens, and then it's football season, baby. So Eagles fly. Another point on that is my daughter and my lady, they rotate what they make as baked goods, and it's such a great moment just of expanding baby girl's experience in cooking and in baking and in measuring and just finding out the things that she likes to do and the things that she doesn't like to do, what she likes to eat, what she doesn't like to eat, and then having that as bonding time with her and my lady. So great. It's, it's delightful just to see her experience and the joy of completing a process and then reaping the benefits of making cookies, making cake. There's no ulterior motives. It's just I definitely get to reap the benefits of that, and that is probably a hidden gem in terms of rest and recuperation. Is looking forward to not focusing on work and obligations of the upcoming week, but instead to really take it in as family time, and then have a little bit of sugar, have a little touch, right? Because I know most likely Monday through Friday is going to be very low to no sugar. So that's one for me to put it up. One of the other things is have a reminder of what the target goal is, right? So I just had to walk you through what I would do, where I'm going for, what I'm aiming for. But then in a very specific way, it's write the vision down. And I will harp on this to the day I die for anyone who starts going to the gym or doing some new workout or some new training routine, is remind yourself of why you're doing it, but have it written out. Something changes internally when you write down a goal. And this is, I'm going to be a stickler on this and say, don't just put it on your phone. Don't just write it in a program. Get out a pen, get out a piece of paper, write it down, and have it nearby. Have it near your desk, near your workspace, put it in your wallet, whatever the case may be. But something happens when you write it down and then you review it. Something just clicks in the mind and in the heart to have that as a high priority. And this might be something that separates those who want to be in shape or to work on a goal on their bucket list than to those who do the small things every single day that will eventually build up to it no matter what, no matter how long it takes. I swear by it. I'll probably mention in every podcast, and this is at least the 28th time that I've said it. Write the vision down. Write it down. All right. If you have written it down, review it. Anytime your mind goes into autopilot, or you start to have thoughts of that people call boring. I actually am not a fan of saying bored. It means your soul's asleep if you're bored. If you're bored, it's because your mind has gone to an aimless place. And there's a time and place to not think about anything. But if it happens during the day, something in your heart is saying you're working towards nothing. So in that moment of realizing it, look at what that goal is. All of a sudden you're back on track. If you find an interest or a hobby or a role model or someone who stokes that fire within you, think about what they did to get there, how they did it. Maybe they have a book, go get a book. Maybe they have a podcast, follow them. They have a YouTube channel, listen to them. Follow those people, that'll stoke it for you, and then look at what your goals are. That's how you stay on track. Do that when you wake up in the morning, before you go to bed at night, and at any moment your brain goes to autopilot, instead of just looking at the emails or the DMs, look at what your goal is. And it's just 6 weeks, and you'll find it becomes something that is integral to who you are and how you operate. The seventh thing I would do is have an honest review of the past 6 weeks. Celebrate the process. Taper off like it's the end. Like you hit that goal. I'm at 235 again. Woo! Right? But instead of completely going on vacation, do 3 times a week just to reset and taper off. Let your muscles stay. How do I even say that? Let your muscles recoup, but then not atrophy. Don't have any backsliding there. But it's not going to be a moment where you're trying to outdo a PR, a personal record, or a personal best, right? When you've reset, start it over again. Start a 6-week program. Do it again. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the target. See what you've done. Celebrate that win, and then get back at it. All right. So here's the ugly part. All right. So looking at the chart, I have it from October 1st, 2024 to 11/9/24. November 9th, 2024. I have it broken down on a graph, X and Y coordinates. You got day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. And then I have it on the other side going week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. When I've hit that, I'll put it on Instagram, I'll put it on Facebook, I'll push it on the socials for you to see. But it looks like this. This is what the reality looks like. Hit it week 1, I went 5 out of 6 times. Week 2, I went 3 out of 6 times. That's half. Week 3 was full. It's the only week that I went to the gym every single day for the time that I committed, day 1 through 6. On week 4, it was willy-nilly. I went 3 out of the 6 times, but it was either did cardio one time or weights another time. It was kind of really wonky. Oh, I see why. It was birthday weekend. All right. The truth comes out. Week 5, I went 2 out of the 6 times. And then we are now in week 6, and I'm shooting from the hip, shooting 100%, 3 out of 3, and have 3 days left. As previously stated, I feel the recomposition more than any other time. And I think that's because of the 45 minutes of cardio practically every single time that I've gone to the gym. And I made that the main priority. The second I step out of the locker room, it's straight to the elliptical machine to do interval training for 45 minutes. From there, it dictates what I'm doing. If I don't have enough time because of whatever the schedule was, I know I can check it off as a success because I did the 45 minutes, which would be the improvement from not doing any cardio at the gym and just lifting weights from previously, we'll say from October 1st, prior to October 1st, right? This harkens back to, I don't remember what episode it was, but I was talking about C's get degrees, but a D will get you where you're going if you're consistent in terms of consistency. And so if this is the first time you've heard this, it'd be looking at this 6-week test to know exactly what I mean. So if I were to tally up the math, it works out to be 21 divided by 36 is 0.58, which is about 60%. 60% max effort. If I did my best right now, and this is what I could do given life circumstances, this will still get me to where I'm going. It's no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater and beat myself up, because week 1, I went 5 out of 6 times. Week 2, I did half. Week 3 was a flawless week of, well, actually, technically it was not. So for only one of those days, I skipped cardio, but did weights instead. And I think that's because I knew I should have taken better notes. I think it's because I didn't go to the gym, but used the gym at my apartment. And so the surplus of burned calories from cardio is the secret sauce right there. All right, week 4 was 3 out of 6, so half the time. Week 5 last week was only 2 out of 6, and then this is shooting 100%. So this is to put everything into perspective in what a 6-week program looks like. It's pushing yourself in a very dedicated, programmed manner, but then also having the space of not seeing as a loss because it was not between 90 and 100 for the consistency. There's a level of consistency that was there, and then it was the output while I was at the gym that made the difference. That's only half the math because of what I was eating and what I was not eating and or drinking, and constantly being reminded of why I'm there, what I'm going for, and that it's very doable. So how do I feel? I feel phenomenal. I feel like I was persistent, that I was tenacious with what I said I was going to do and then doing it, and then having that as the habit that was the underlying red thread throughout the whole theme of self-development. So, this will be a follow-up episode on what the results actually look like, because while the scale can be forgiving, the mirror is something that is hardest to put into perspective and to accept. So that's the motivation for going to the gym, but now it's telling a different story because everything has gotten more firm and the resolve is also more firm. All right. When it comes to something like motivation, motivation will only get you so far, and that is a great boost if you're able to catch yourself slipping and say, oh, why am I here? What am I going after? Is it worth it? The answer should be yes, because this is the thing. This will be the drive that keeps you going when you don't have the motivation. And if you're writing it down for the 6 weeks, there was not one moment in the past 6 weeks where I said, I don't feel motivated to go to the gym. There was one day, and that was because my sleep was wonky, and what I did was I canceled everything for the day outside of besides the obligations. I took a deep nap. I think it was like a 4-hour nap, and then I went to the gym. And I don't know which week it was. I want to say it was week 3 or week 4. Did it? And that was the only time that I said, I don't think I have what it takes to do it. I didn't say in that language. I said, I'm walking away from going into the gym. I was in the parking lot, went home, and then reset, got back on the horse, and then did it. So let that be a moment of seeing the mental hurdle to run, and then use that as something that you have in the memory bank next time it comes up, because it is a tricky thing to convince yourself that you'll always be motivated when the maturity that comes with knowing what the journey looks like is to be independent of feeling motivated or not. The secret is having written it down, having recorded the results, having graded it, having seen it, and then seeing the change and saying, okay, no matter what comes my way, environmental factors, there's a bunch of fires, seasonal allergies, blah, blah, blah. That won't be enough to take you off of what that routine is, right? Because the dedication to it is beyond feelings, beyond emotion. A thing that I was also 100% faithful to was when in the car at the gym, closing my eyes for 2 minutes and 13 seconds, actually had the timer on, and visualizing what it looks like to have completed the 6-week program. And as I'm recording this in Colin's wonderful abode and using his equipment, thank you, big shout out, Colin. It was saying very similar to how I feel right now. I feel accomplished for being faithful to the program, not getting knocked off and staying down, but instead doing it, and when there, giving it my all. Caffeine helped, but even more than caffeine was being well rested, knowing what it takes for recovery, doing the stretches and the elevation for legs was the thing that kept me from burning out. If I were not to taper off and to do the program again, I think I would be able to do it. Of course, I'm not going to do that because this is the marathon aspect of it. This is the keeping the fire burning, and then keeping my eye on the prize. So in the last, what has it been, 6 years now, the whole thing that I noticed was giving the highs and lows of life, pandemic, adjusting to society again, I was still consistently losing 25 pounds a year to hit 235. With this new and improved way of doing things, of sticking to 6 weeks, tapering off for a week, going back in it, 6 weeks, tapering off, this is something that is manageable and doable for the next 3 years. I foresee if I were to do this for the next 3 years, I'd probably be at 185 without having been extreme. There wasn't anything that I felt that I lacked in terms of social interactions. Everything was just cut down. Everything had parameters and boundaries, and so it wasn't a moment of actually feeling like I cheated, even on a cheat day. On a cheat day, it was more like a reset day. It was closer to what life looks like on a Sunday. Right? I know there's a ton of people who refuse to change, don't think the effort of change is worthwhile. But I'll tell you from firsthand experience, it's enough to harp on it every single episode to say there are small things that you can do along the way that will have huge dividends if you do and are consistent. This was not perfect by any means, but in the past 6 weeks, at 60% showing up, I give it an A+. Okay, so you already know your why you're going to the gym. You know what you're aiming for. You have that target. You've written it down. You've visualized every time you go to the gym, do your run, whatever it may be, for a time. You're locked in. Something else that keeps me grounded and anchored is having a picture of me and baby girl. And big shout out Ash and Kevin. My lady took a photo of me and my daughter as we were leaving the wedding, and there's just something about catching a door frame, right? I'm holding hands with baby girl, and we're about to leave the reception, and Marianne caught it and sent me the photo. Right, so I have a digital, and actually no, I have the digitals that she had texted, but she also printed it out. So that printout is something I keep on my bedstand, on the nightstand, and when I see it, something gets hit that's primal, of being like, okay, this is the image that she'll have. She doesn't, like, she remembers the wedding because it was very recent, but in terms of, we'll say, a 5-year forecast, if she didn't see that photo for 5 years, she'd have a vague memory of that night, but not remember that moment. The beauty of the picture is it captures us walking out of the reception and going about life, going home. But to freeze it for eternity and to immortalize it in this picture is a solid reminder of, one, me being her father and being a father figure, being paternal, but then also the intimacy of holding her hand, that she can grow up and grow old with, and see that there was someone who was there to provide and protect and to help navigate life with her. In that moment, it almost brings a tear to my eye. Well, no, it does bring a tear to my eye. It doesn't make me, start crying in this whole bitter nostalgia area, because it's very real and there was no loss. It's a moment to say, this is what I actually look like. This is an accurate depiction of daddy-daughter bonding time. And one of the things that I'd said was, I don't ever want to be a fat dad. And to see that photo, formal attire, she's looking like a little princess. I have my formal outfit on, is such a moment to capture. So thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you, Ashley and Kevin, for getting married, right? All right. That is a little memento that I suggest to everyone listening. Find something like that and be reminded of it, right? Consistently. Have that next to your goal, and you will be golden for any lull, any valley experience while you're doing a 6-week test. The next thing is a handcrafted playlist. Whether you work out to music or your own music, or you hear it going on in the background, one of the beautiful moments that I like to do is typically once a year make a brand new playlist with different music. The thing that my man's John Ramen put me on was to have the music that gets me fired up, underground hip hop, rock music, that grunge music. I have that combo, but then also sprinkle in praise and worship. And when he first said this, I was like, no, I don't know about that. This is the gym, right? When I tried it out, making the playlist and then putting praise and worship in there, something hit in a very specific way. Instead of just feeding the soul, it was feeding the spirit. And I noticed with cardio, when I do the interval training and I'm fired up to do the 20-second sprint, 30-second sprint, 10-second sprint, and then catch my breath and put the heart rate down, when that goes to praise and worship, for some reason my heart slows down way faster, and I change the track, put on something that gets me amped, and I'm able to do the sprint portion no problem. And part of me is wondering why I didn't find that out sooner, but I guess that's part of why they call it a fitness journey, all the things you learn along the way. Big shout out, John Ramen, you're my guy right there, and thank you again for that lovely present of the Imperfect Cell Dragon Ball Z, for all my DBZ heads out there, figurine that you sent. What a guy. All right. Actually, I'm not done on harping on the playlist. So the thing that I did recently was I made 2 playlists, brand new content, brand new range, but then it was selective with what that range was. So I have it either goes that 90s R&B heartbreak song, the Motown classic heartbreak song, some praise and worship to elevate and to have my eyes closed and to just put my soul at rest and turn the spirit up, and then something that will be that workout music. 2 years ago, I had these playlists. You can check them out on Spotify. If you follow me on Spotify, it was called Angry Gym Fuel. And it was effective, but it was not effective in terms of turning off the fight or flight reflex from being amped up at the gym. And that's my little warning to everyone there is this is a great way to compare and contrast. So I had done it the hard way and realized, people are like, hey, why are you being a jerk? Why does it seem like you go 0 to 100 real fast? Oh, it's because I didn't decompress from that music I was listening to for the past 90 minutes, right? When you put the praise and worship music in there, it brings you down in the best way possible. And there's the physiological response to it. So shout out Maverick City, right? All right. From there, I'd say, what's something that keeps you on track? And what's that motivation that keeps you on track? Hopefully you found some speakers on YouTube that you like or you admire, or there's an author. I'm always going to default to David Goggins. And speaking of which, I was watching an interview of his the other day where he was talking about when he was first offered the book deal. He was offered $30K, and he's like, no, my story's worth more. And then it became the $30 million, and he's like, yeah, that's more like it, right? And when the publishers were like, you don't have a black audience, right? No one's gonna watch this. And he's like, well, you don't know who you're talking to, because most of his demographic are white men, mostly military backgrounds, right? Like no one wants to hear about ultra running. Well, how wrong were they? His offhanded comment that he said was that he has like 3 black followers. Well, you're wrong, David Goggins. You've got 4. Right? I'm a huge fan. Right? This guy is remarkable in terms of the change that he made, and then the level of dedication and persistence in all of those areas. Right. So, in that regards, I'd say when you are, whatever the entertainment cathartic releases that you do, going to the movies, binge watching a show, one of those things I would work in there is something that you follow on YouTube that gets you motivated for sticking to your goals and sticking to these things. The easiest thing to do is to be average, right? Then that's how you get out of shape. All right. Well, what do you have to do to be slightly above average? That consistency and just minor tweaks is what gets you there. There are sacrifices. Yes, I'm not gonna lie to you about that. Is it painful? I would not say it's actually painful. I'd say it's something that you have to fight against, and then it becomes enjoyable. At first, it does seem painful, but it's something that when you dead the noise is not even a factor. This is what life looks like for these 6 weeks. Is it worthwhile? Absolutely. Well, that about sums it up. And if you're dropping in for the first time to hear this podcast, hopefully it has got you thinking about what you can do, but then hooks you by saying, I'm going to write this down and do it. That's what happened when I realized that I had been wallowing in a false sense of being average and needing to get in shape. It was September 31st, 2024, and I wrote that goal down. I highlighted it with a highlighter saying 235 pounds is the new goal. Current weight 260. Let's do it. Next day I was in the gym, knowing why I was in the gym. Next day I was in the gym doing cardio, right? That was what was lacking. Put it back in its proper orientation. The diet was off. It was very loose. Now it's tight. 6 weeks, right? That's all it takes. If you don't see results, try it one more time. But I think unless you're floating around in the gym aimlessly, even if you had that goal, something falls in line when you are intentional for 6 weeks. I doubt anyone who is intimidated by the gym or doesn't even know how to use equipment, I doubt you won't figure it out in 6 weeks if you're dedicated and you are about it. So whether the goal is small as drop 5 pounds, or if something as large as dropping 25 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, do the 6-week test, rinse, wash, repeat, and see where it goes. If you need more motivation besides that, hit follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, and I'll see you next time. These are the keys to my success. I can't open the door for you. You got to open the door yourself and walk through it. I'll see you on the other side.